Alright, in this video we're going to build an AI automation that takes in multiple images from different angles from a product and transforms it into a 3D physics ad, so something like this. So now let's actually demo this real quick, but before that I quickly want to overview this whole automation. So you first just upload 3 images of the product from different angles to a form. Then using GPT we just create a prompt for the animations, because we'll create 3 animation clips in total. So after that we send those prompts and those images to Kling O1. And this will just create the animations with the physics. And the great feature about this Kling O1 model is that it supports multiple reference images. So when it actually animates, for example, a 360 spin, then it actually knows all of the angles of the product, so it's not hallucinating or adding parts that don't exist in the product. So that's really sweet. But after that, we just use FFMPEG to stitch all of the 3 clips into single one. And then once we have the final video, we just add some music again with FFmpeg. And this music comes from your own library. So in my case, I'm using N8N data tables, where I just put in a bunch of song download URLs and it'll pick a random one from the batch. But now let's actually execute the workflow. So here we have a form, and here's where we upload all of the 3 product images from different angles. So in my case, I have this one from an iPhone with the back view, front view, and side view. So I'm just going to upload all of these. Then it's asking for an email. I'm just going to put a random one. And then for the color scheme, it's telling me to pick one. So I'm just going to go with warm tones. And then in this case, since we didn't pick this brand color option, then we can just leave this empty. And now let's actually click on generate AI video. And after around 3 to 4 minutes, we have the final product ready. So let's go to the last node and go to the URL. And this is what we have. So boom, there you can see how accurate the product is, how smooth the animations are, and how everything is very high quality overall. I know a lot of AI tools can already do this, but the difference with Kling O1 is that it supports multiple reference images. Because I tried this with other AI tools with just one reference image, for example, the frontal iPhone picture, and it doesn't know what the side looks like, it doesn't know what the back looks like. So in the final video, it creates fake parts and hallucinates, which is a huge problem. So the fact that Kling O1 can support multiple images is a game changer. So in this video, I'm going to be teaching you how to create this whole automation, how to connect all of the AI tools, and how to have this ready so you can use it for your clients, for your own products, and so on. And if you want an easy plug and play access to this template so you can just download it and import it to your N8N, then feel free to check it out in our community called No Code AI Automators. Here you'll have access to the template as well as all of the automations that I build on my YouTube channel, including the prompts that I use and of course the N8N blueprints. And here you'll also have access to more things like the N8N Launchpad, intro to AI automations and agents, and you can ask me questions or to the community. So if you're into AI automation and agents, then I highly suggest you join. Right now we have a limited offer until 100 members, so feel free to check it out in the description below. But now let's actually get started with the tutorial. So first things first is that of course you need N8N. And if you're new to N8N and you don't have it yet, then I highly suggest that you use Hostinger's self-hosted plan for N8N. This is the one that I use for myself as well as for my clients. So if you're going to be creating projects like the ones that I create on my channel, and you also want to host other stuff in there as well, then I recommend you pick this KVM2 plan. So just go ahead and choose plan. Then after that, you can select your period. The higher you go, the cheaper it will be. And as a bonus, you can also select N8N plus 100 workflows. So this will come with all of those workflows preloaded. And after that, you can add my coupon code called Ricardo, because this will give you a 10% discount. So be sure to put that in and to also use my affiliate link in the description, because yes, this is an affiliate, which means that I may get a commission if you purchase through my link. But after that, you can just click on continue, follow the setup instructions, and you'll be ready to go in a couple of minutes. So now let's get started with the actual nodes. So first off, the trigger we're using here is a form submission. So here I just have it really simple with a title and a description, and with a couple of form elements. The first one is where you actually have to select the element type as file, enable multiple files, and select the ones that are actually image file types. So this part will just let the users submit images of their own. And after that, for the second field where the user puts in their email, you can just select the element type as email, put in a placeholder if you want to, put it as required field. And then for the color scheme field, you can just put the element type as a dropdown and put in all of the options you think are acceptable. In my case, I just put in mixed, cool tones, warm tones, pastel, and with a brand color. And after that, just as a bonus, I put in a field name called what is your brand color, and here is where the user can put in their brand color as a hex code if they selected this option right here. That's why it's not as required, because they can also select all of these other ones. So then once the user actually submits the form, then you'll get all of this data, like all of the images and all of the answered questions like the email, the color scheme, and so on. So once we have all of the user information, then we're ready to process it. But before that, we also add an extra step to limit the images to minimum and maximum of 3. So to do that, we just use this code node, and here you can change the max count and minimum count. In my case, I put in 3 for both, so it's always 3 images. So make sure to put this in. I actually created this code with ChatGPT. So if you want to create it for yourself, you can just ask it to give you a code for N8N to limit the number of binary files from a form submission to maximum and minimum of 3. So once you have that in this case, nothing happens because I specifically uploaded just 3 images, so that's good. So next off, we actually need to get the URIs of all of the images. So a URI is kind of like a universal URL. So this is basically a really long piece of text that can actually translate to an image. And we need this so we can actually send it to KlingO1. So to get that, here we're just using a regular code node with this code right here. Again, it's all made with ChatGPT or with any AI tool you want. I just asked it to extract the URI of a binary file in N8N, and it gave me this code. So then, as you can see, for all of the 3 images, we have their URIs. But before we continue, we actually need to create the animation prompts first as well. So here I'm just using Claude Sonnet 4.5, and I created this really long prompt again with Claude. But essentially, this is a meta prompt that's telling it to create 3 prompts for the 3 animations. So if you want to create prompts like that, then I highly suggest you just go to Claude Web and tell it what you want, and it'll give you a really good prompt. But after that, we just enable add attachments and add all of the binary files, which are the images. And this is so Claude can also analyze the images and see what to include in all of the animations for each angle. So once we run this, then it'll give us the 3 prompts in JSON format. But as you can see, it's not formatted correctly. So of course, we have to fix this. But first, we need to merge the URIs with the prompts. And this is simply because we want all of these to come inside one item. So to do that, you can just use a merge node, set the mode as combine, set the combine by as position, and the number of inputs as 2 because we're using the URIs and the prompts. So once you run this, then you'll see that all of the image URIs will be associated with the whole prompt. So that's exactly what we're looking for. And then we can actually start formatting the JSON prompts. So as you can see here, this JSON has clip 1, which is the first prompt, clip 2, which is the second prompt, and clip 3, which is the third one. And all of these 3 are basically in the same field, and we need to separate them, so we need to format this JSON, which is what this code exactly does. So again, I used ChatGPT to create this JavaScript code. I just sent it that unformatted JSON that Claude gave me, and I told it that I needed it in a correct format. So it did a great job, as you can see. So clip 1 has the first prompt, clip 2 has the second prompt, and clip 3 has the third one. So now with all of this formatting, we're finally ready to actually use KlingO1. So okay, where I used KlingO1 is inside Fal AI, and Fal AI is basically a place where you can test all of the AI tools available, and you can also have just one API key for all of them. So yes, I really recommend to use Fal AI, but now to actually use this model inside N8N, you first have to top up on some credits. So click on the plus sign on the top right, and you can add some credits. I suggest $10 to $20 if you're just starting out so you can test everything, but KlingO1 is relatively cheap for a video model. As you can see, it costs $0.1 per second. But anyways, now to use it inside N8N, we need the API key. So to get that, you can just go to manage, then go to API keys. And here you can just create or add a new key. In my case, I already have one, so once you have it, you can just copy it. And then when you go back to N8N, you can just use a HTTP request with the method as post, with the URL as this one. Then for the authentication, you can just put generic credential type. For the auth type, you can put in header auth, which is right here. And here I already have my file AI credential, but since you probably don't have it, you can just click on create new credential. Here you can just name it file.ai. And for the value here, you have to paste in the API key, so just put it in. And then at the start, you can just put in key and then a space. And for the name, you can just put authorization with a capital A. So once you connect it, then it's successfully authenticated. And now you can just enable send body, put it as JSON, using JSON, and use this JSON right here. And here would be where you put in the prompt, the reference images, and some other tweaks. So first off, for the prompt, you can just drag and drop the prompt right here. Then for the reference images, you can get it from this get URI node. So just put the URI to the reference images. I know here it says reference image URLs and there's 2 images here, and then here it says frontal image URL and there's only 1. In total, there's 3 images and it doesn't matter the order, you can just put it however you like it. But after that, for the duration, you can select it as 5 seconds, and for the aspect ratio, in my case, I'm using it for short form content, so it's 9:16, so for like TikTok, Instagram Reels, and so on. So anyways, once you run this node, then it'll run for all of the 3 prompts, because here you can see the 3 videos for all of the 3 prompts. So let's just test this first one out and see what it has. So this is the first one, then this is the second one, so very cool, and this is the third one. So again, just like we saw. So okay, so far so good, and now we actually need to merge all of those 3 individual clips into a single one. So to do that, we first have to aggregate them since they're in 3 separate items. So just add an aggregate node, set it as individual fields, and for the input field name, you can just grab this URL placeholder and put it here. So once you run this node, it'll just aggregate all of those URLs into a single item, and now they're ready to be stitched. So again, here we're using File AI, but with another model, not necessarily an AI model, but just a video model, and this is called FFMPEG. And in this case, we're using the merge videos endpoints, and as you can see here, you just put in all of the video URLs you want to be stitched, and it'll just stitch them all together into a single video. So remember that each of those clips were 5 seconds long, so 5 times 3 equals 15 seconds, like it says right here. And since it's not an AI model, then it's very cheap, so it costs around this much for every compute second, and this whole operation takes around 10 seconds, so you can just multiply 10 by this number. Again, very cheap. But anyways, to use FFmpeg inside N8N, you can just use a HTTP request, set the method as post, set the URL as this one. Then for authentication, set it again as generic credential type with a header auth. And here, since we already have File AI, then you can just select it from the dropdown. And then for the body, you can just enable it and send it as JSON and use this JSON right here. So this is very simple. It's just all of the 3 clips that we have generated. So drag the first one here, the second one there, and the third one right here. So boom, once we run this node, then let's test out the output. So it's in this URL. So let's see what it has. And boom, as you can see, the video lasts 15 seconds because all of the clips are stitched together. So awesome, that's working perfectly. And now the last thing we need to do is to overlay a random song. So for this, you can create a data table inside N8N with a column named song URL. And here you can just upload any song you want as a Google Drive file. And to get the specific URL that can be used with an API, then you can just follow this format right here. So the only thing you will need to change is your file ID, which is this one. So make sure you use those specific URL formats, and then just fill up your table with all of the music that you want. So after that, we're just gonna add this data table node, which is as resource as row, operation as get. And here you can just select your data table. In my case, it's named music list. And here we're just using this node to return all of the available items, just to get the total amount of songs that there are. So that's awesome. But first off, as you can see, we have 3 items that output from this node. And in this case, we just want 1 item because it'll just be 1 final video. So here we just have to aggregate all of the list. So you can just use an aggregate node, set it as individual fields, and for the input field name, you can just drag in the ID. And here, as you can see, now we just have 1 item with the music list, not with the URLs, but just with the numbers. And in this case, we want this last one because it'll tell us how many songs there are in the list. So okay, now that we have that critical value, then we can just pick a random one from the list. So to do that, you just add a data table node, set the resource as row, the operation as get, then select your data table, then pick must match any condition. And here we're going to add a condition where the ID will equal a specific number. So in this case, we have this JavaScript little expression, which will just pick a random number depending on how many songs there are in the list. And in this case, when we ran it, we got the value as 1. So we got ID 1, which is the first song in the list. And as you can see, it returned that specific song URL. So now we can just overlay that song on top of the video that we have. And to do that, again, we're using FFmpeg, but now with the merge audio video endpoint. So again, it's very simple. You just input the video URL and the audio URL to overlay. And that's it. And for the pricing, it costs this amount per second. So since it's not an AI model, it's very, very cheap. And the way you can access it inside N8N is with, again, a HTTP request with this URL, and the rest is all of the same values. And for the JSON body, you can put in this one right here. So first off, you put in the video URL, which comes from this node. So just drag it in. And then the audio URL, which comes from our last node. So just drag that in. And once you run this, then you'll get the final video URL. So let's just check that out, and boom, it's the video with the audio with all of the staged clips. So boom, that would be the final result. So with this AI workflow, you'll be able to get very high quality product animation ads, and all of that with just 1 click and in a couple of minutes. And again, if you want access to this N8N template, then you can get it in No Code AI Automators. Here you'll have access to all of the workflows that I built on my YouTube channel, and we have a limited offer until we reach 100 members, where we'll increase the price. So if you really like this space, and I highly recommend you to check it out, the link will be in the description. And if you liked this video, then feel free to check out my past ones, which are very, very similar. And if you want to see more future ones, then please subscribe and hit the bell. If you have any questions or feedback, please let me know down in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.